Hello, welcome to the Last Supper of Outcasts, and I'm your host, Bernie Madoff. Man, you want to talk about somebody that wasn't who you thought he was. Today is June 12th, 2026, Friday. Not that it matters. And today's quote of the day is by Johnny Pineapple, good friend of mine. When the devil appears, he never appears as the devil. Now, I know that not a lot of people are watching these videos right now, at least. I have faith that they will be, because I feel that I'm not alone in my thinking. And I know I stutter a lot, and I'm going to work on that. And I also want to convey that the real message here is to, I've noticed that a lot of YouTube videos and the media out there is trying to tell us what we should think, how we should think, what is right, what is wrong. My message is that, me personally, I don't know. But I think it's important that I think for myself and I come to my own conclusions. And that's the real message of this of what I'm talking about with this entire, just even starting the entire YouTube channel, is to convey to people the importance of thinking for yourself, not having somebody tell you how to think or what to think or how often to think about it or any of that. Because each one of us, I truly believe, we innately know what is right and what is wrong and what is going to harm us and what is not going is going to help us. And that is the real message. It's not to tell you what to think. It's to get you to think. So I just want to put that out there. And in terms of Bernie Madoff, that's a part of the just the I guess you could call it somebody portraying themselves and having a multitude of people believe that portrayal, which isn't true. I mean, if anybody, Bernie Madoff, if for those of you that don't know, and I'm looking at Wikipedia, he was the mastermind of the largest known Ponzi scheme in history. You know, good old Uncle Bernie. Well, you know, while you're hugging him, he's stealing your wallet, and he was also a one-time chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange. I mean, this is how high up this criminal rose, just because people thought it was good old Uncle Bernie. And that leads me to talk a little bit, and I had to think a lot about this. It leads me to think about my own, how my own suspicions became slowly realized, I guess you could say, in my own head. Since I've been a small child, I've had suspicions about everything that is going on in this world. And I'm not saying I'm more intelligent than anyone. I'm saying that the things that have happened to me and the duality of my own upbringing. I was brought up by my grandparents mainly because my ma had to work and she was a single mother. So we were dirt poor, and my grandparents lived in the city of Lovejoy, if anyone's familiar with Buffalo, New York. And so I got to experience the city portion of life, and then we lived in a my mother was dirt poor, so we also had another side of our family that had a house in Lancaster, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo. Which now, I mean, even then it was a very, you know, a nice part of New York. Um, and it was country. There was this forest in the backyard. There was fields. We had acres of land there. So I got to experience both sides of that, and that is a big deal to me in terms of my own upbringing and my outlook on things. Um, and I had my childhood was filled with its fair share of trauma, just to put it lightly. I've had two uncles that were murdered, and I had one that tried to lay his hands on me, and he didn't get away with it. He didn't get in trouble either because I didn't announce it to any. Nobody knows this. This is the first time. So if any of my family's watching, uh, you know, I'm sure you can guess which one it was. Yeah, he's no longer with us, and I don't hate him, but the trauma that I went through with one of my cousins, who I don't know that she's blocked it out so much, I think, mentally, that she don't doesn't even think of it as trauma because it was too much. You know, got had two uncles that were murdered, and I remember specifically as a kid laying in the room. We were all the females were gathered up the night of one of them at least, and me and my cousin, who was a female, were laying in the room with and we could hear everything. They were crying. My grandmother was there. My mother, my aunts were there, crying and talking about this thing. And I just remembered laying there, and we're supposed to be sleeping, and it was absolutely horrifying. And then I think about, in terms of me talking about duality, uh, that's what I mean. I had those sort of horrific experiences of I was attempted abuse. It came real close because I was 5 years old. I didn't know any better. So the first attempt at the abuse was a little successful. I'm just going to leave it at that. The second attempt was not successful, and then that shut everything down. Um, but no one still knows about it. I never ratted on said uncle, who at that time was actually, you want to talk about appearances. Things are not what they seem to be, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Things are not as they seem to be, at least to me. And I think the world as it's going right now, a lot of us are discovering that. But if you've never been through trauma and everything is presented to you, because I had both worlds. Again, I had both worlds. I had a very traumatic childhood, but I also had a very pleasant, and I was in nature a lot as a child, uh, and I was lucky that way, because if it would have just been one or the other, it would have been off balance. So I had a perfect balancing act in terms of how to approach life, and I think a lot of people didn't have that. So I consider myself to be very lucky, and what I guess I'm trying to say is that by me experiencing the trauma and the attempted abuse, it made me realize that things aren't what we're being told exactly. They're not. We're not. At least we're not learning or being told the whole truth. And I knew that since the age of 5. And I don't think a lot of kids realize that at the age of 5. I did. And I think even now, adults don't realize that at the age of 60. Everything isn't uh, rainbows, unicorns, and sunshine. It just isn't. And I think a lot of adults still haven't realized that. And that's causing a lot of problems, especially right now. Because now we're being forced to realize that everything isn't rainbows and sunshine. It just don't work that way. So I consider myself lucky in that regard, and because I experienced both sides. And at the time of, like, when my uncles, it was around the same time. There's two of them that was they were murdered. One was in a bar fight, and the other one was in I'd rather not say, but he got shot. And those types of episodes make you realize and think, uh, at the same time, while everyone's pretending everything is rainbows and sunshine, the Disneyfication of everything. Let's put it that way. Disney was big even in 1972 or whatever year it was, and you realize that I realized at the age of 5 that it was not. And ever since then, I've had suspicions about anybody that has an overly positive attitude and everything is happy and great. It isn't. It isn't. And the thing is when something happens to these people that is blindsides them, and it happens to all of us. It happened to happen to me when I was 5 years old, and it's continued. But everything that's happened to me, I've been able to handle it, I think, better than most people are, because I already knew that what we're being sold, in terms of the Disneyfication of everything, is total bullcrap. You need both sides. So I feel lucky that I had that duality, and I had, not all my uncles were, murdered or abusers, but I also, again, even in my family, I had uncles that were loving and kind. They made me laugh, and they were tough and strict, and taught me how to kind of be a man. And I had both sides of the coin, which I think a lot of people in this day and age, and for years and years ago, also have been missing. They it this life, in terms of mentally getting through it, is it's a balancing act. It's a total balancing act. So I think that I was blessed in terms of being witness to both sides of that. And my suspicions about things from such an early age, that things are not what they seem always. Things are not necessarily what they seem, has made me not be like one-sided or the other in terms of a hard-nosed type of approach to life, as that this is the right answer, or this is the right religion, or this is the right answer. I believe that none of that exists, and it's up to you to make the decision and to look at yourself and to think for yourself and to figure things out. And the thing is that if you try to figure things out, you're not going to, because none of this is meant to be figured out. If this world was meant to be figured out, uh, we have a lot of brilliant people that have lived on this planet, and not one of them has figured out what this is. And what I'm trying to say to you and to myself, talking to myself here mainly, this is like a therapy session for me. Is I'm trying to say that there is no hard answer. There isn't one. And we as humans have a really hard time with that. We have a real hard time. We need to be able to categorize everything. Everything's got to be in its little frame and neatly pinned up on the wall and put in a clear category in its bookcase. It don't work that way. And that's where I feel lucky. And I'm realizing that. I'm just realizing some of this as I'm talking to the camera here. So I guess that's all I wanted to say for today. And again, it's not me telling anybody what to think, because there's too much of that. Everybody's telling you what to think, how to think. This is the right thing. That's the right thing. And when they themselves don't know, they don't know. Nobody knows here. I don't know if anybody's realized that yet, but nobody knows anything about what's going on here. So that's why I'm saying the importance of you thinking for yourself, making your own decisions, and not doing it based on what someone else is telling you. That is one of the keys. It's a balancing act here, folks. It's a balancing act. I believe it's about not going too far in either direction. It's like walking a tightrope. And I think it was Buckminster Fuller. Here's another quote that said, "Any man that's worth his salt is always walking a tightrope." And I think that may be what he meant by that. So I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm also coming to the conclusion that I'm not going to figure it out. But I have to be able to rest in my own mind, because we all want to stay sane. But that doesn't mean parking somewhere and staying there just because someone told you to. So that's all I wanted. That's all I really wanted to convey. It went a little bit sideways, and I'm still stuttering, and I realize that, and I'm working on it. But I'm going off the cuff here. So I gather something I want to talk about. Jot down a few little things, and then I just go off. So I promise to get better at the not stuttering. I'm working on it, but I am going off on a cuff. This is not a scripted performance. This YouTube stuff doesn't mean enough to me to go out and buy mics and lighting, because these guys could just shut you off at any minute, and I know that, and I don't care. But I do appreciate anybody that's watching. So if you are watching, if you decided to tune in, I really do appreciate it. I thank you. And I do hope you're getting something out of these videos. And that's about it. Please like, subscribe. If there is a notification bell, please hit the notification bell. I'm not trying to sell you nothing at all. I'm just trying to get you to think. And if you have similar thoughts, anything that you'd want to convey, I'd love to hear your comments. And that's about it for tonight. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon. And thank you again for watching.